I'm Tommy Salmons. This is year 0. I am here with Austin Thomas Jones, the founder of Atlas Arms and the creator of the Dagney Dagger. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's a tongue twister, man. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Working, man, working. Ain't we all?
Yeah.
Don't eat that. Sorry. I just got done with pizza. I got an empty styrofoam container here. My dog's like, yeah, as you see. There he is.
Good looking dog.
He's trying to get in there and see why it smells so good. So, well, look, let's get rolling. Tell us about the Dagney Dagger, man. It's a new product that you've come up with. It's open source and it's an armor piercing hollow point.
Yeah.
Which I found really interesting. When I saw you firing it and the expansion in the gel, I was like, wow, man, for an armor piercing bullet, that thing's got some like oomph to it. But
yeah.
when you explained how the jacket acted as the hollow point, I was like, oh, okay. So can you give us a little breakdown of how you came into creating this ammunition, what made you interested in it, and then what exactly it is that it does?
Yeah, okay. So maybe some background. You don't see any armor piercing ammunition in gun stores now. You really can't buy it because in the 80s, Congress passed the Law Enforcement Officers Protection Act under kind of the veil of protecting police officers. And that banned the manufacture and import of armor piercing ammunition for sale to civilians. I'm a libertarian. I don't really believe in the state. I don't like that the government is able to use, police officers, soldiers, federal agents. They're allowed to use armor piercing ammunition, and we can't. So, from a standpoint of equality under the law, I wanted to do something about that. And the definition of armor piercing ammunition is just like a projectile or projectile core composed of like steel, tungsten, depleted uranium, brass, bronze, and beryllium copper. So it's really about the composition. So our bullet uses this exotic alloy that almost nobody's heard of to kind of bypass that regulation and give access to civilians in a way that's legal. So you won't be taken to jail for possessing it. And we won't be jailed for making it. But we wanted to do this and to get back to, armor piercing hollow point or armor penetrating hollow point, to make anything happen. And I think those who kind of understand the free market and how, that kind of synergizes our personal interests as human beings. I knew that if it was just, it would just be kind of like an empty provocation if it could just merely penetrate armor. So I knew that, people would have to trust it to carry it in their carry guns and protect their homes and that sort of thing. And for that, people usually use hollow points because they do so much more devastation to soft tissue. So they eliminate a threat faster. And I don't personally carry hollow points in my guns. That's just, some personal reasons, not that I have anything really against it. But I knew that we would have to build in a capability like that, even though it was for penetrating armor. So, usually a bullet can be really good at penetrating, or it can be very good at expanding and spending its energy, kind of devastating whatever it's passing through. So the construction of the bullet is 2 parts. It is a core of that exotic alloy that is surrounded by a polymer jacket, a plastic jacket. And a lot of people think this jacket is a sabo. It is not. It is bonded to that core. It is one cohesive piece. So when you shoot armor, that jacket gets entirely stripped off of the core, and the core is what continues to penetrate the armor. when you shoot a target like ballistics gel or, God forbid, some kind of assailant in defense, both the core and the jacket stay together for some time. And as it goes through that soft medium, ballistics gel or soft tissue, the jacket is peeled away and it mushrooms just like a hollow point would. And it gives you, this extremely devastating wounding capability, far in excess of standard hollow points. And then also it helps that the bullet is extremely fast, which helps it do more damage in soft tissue and also helps penetrate armor.
What? Okay, so there are things about this that excite me. Not the least of which is that it's open source, and which we can get into how that works. I know that you're working on a project for the Ghost Gunner and things of that nature, but one of the concerns that you might hear when looking at this particular type of ammunition is its penetrating ability. And its ability, once it, like, if you have a target, like you said, God forbid somebody's in your house, an assailant's in your house, you fire the round that's made to penetrate armor, that it might still go through a wall or something like that and hit somebody. So
yeah,
are there any precautions that you are able to take to be able to penetrate armor and, slow it down upon the exiting of a potential assailant?
Yeah, that's really hard to do from a technical standpoint. I don't have a great way to do that. We could, farther on down the road when we have this product to market and we can afford some more development, we might be able to make a variant of this that's like frangible, so you can still get that devastating effect and it, break up. But
Right.
For now, yeah, I would tell people, I would recommend when we go to market that you use this in your carry ammunition when you're just out there, put it in your, for your card gun or whatever. But yeah, if you live with a bunch of other people and you're worried about this thing going through walls, yeah, this is not the round for you.
Yeah, no, I know, because I know like a lot of people use like a 20 gauge for that particular reason, because you don't have to worry about it going through walls and things like that. So
I use a shotgun myself, so.
Yeah, a lot of people, like a lot of my family members, use 20 gauge over 12 gauge because the 12 gauge can potentially penetrate, sheetrock and hit somebody on the other side of the wall, where the 20 gauge is much less likely to penetrate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know people, like, for a while I had, a 410 with home defense rounds in it. Like, and I think, it's plenty.
Yeah, I think so.
But okay, so you were talking about the type of it's not a metal, and I don't want to use the wrong terminology, but that you're using in the round itself is something that the ATF doesn't qualify as armor piercing. How much more expensive does it make the round to produce?
Unfortunately, quite a bit more. And that sucks, but you can just chalk that up to, it's the government's fault. We could have used steel, but it's banned.
Right.
So, like when we come out to market, unfortunately, these rounds are going to be like $2.50 each.
Okay.
And, that's a lot. We want to bring it down. We think that over time we could bring it down to $2, even a little bit less than $2, but that material is just so expensive. We're doing what we can, but this is the only way.
Yeah, no, I just figured I'd ask that, because whenever you were talking to Pete about it, I was like, this sounds like a way you can make a lot of money. Like, but I bet these rounds are going to be like, the Smith & Wesson 500 rounds, where they're going to be like $4 or $5 each. Yeah.
Well, not that expensive, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I figured though, you'll just buy a box of 20 of them and put that in your gun, and then you're good to go.
Right. You're not going to be target shooting with these rounds.
Right.
So. Yes. But no, like you said, they sound like they're really good for home defense or personal defense in your car, on your person. So,
yeah.
And I'm excited about it because I know there for a while, I think now the market's kind of leveled out on the supply of 9mm, but with you running with 9mm, a lot of people were having a lot of trouble finding 9mm rounds there for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they still are. Yeah.
I just called somebody, and they were telling me that the run isn't so bad right now. That
Oh, that's
most
good.
people that are going to stock up on it have stocked up on it, and so it's pretty much leveled out.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you never know when you're going to run into that situation, and having the open source material to be able to create your own rounds, especially a very effective round, especially with the advent of AR-500 becoming so popular nowadays. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, you never heard about anybody buying body armor, but I mean, turn on any conservative host. They're selling body armor nowadays,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
AR-500, I think, is probably the bigger,
Man, we've been wanting to buy armor to test with,
right.
and it's been hard because the demand for armor is through the roof. Uh, just about anywhere selling armor has like a 3-month lead time. It's
Wow.
nuts.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, and I heard, and I don't want to get off onto the tangents of like all the riots and all that stuff, but I heard that like a lot of those guys are actually, ordering armor to be wearing out there, in the protesting and stuff like that, so there's this high demand, and it's not, it's from people that could potentially hurt you are going to find out about this. People that break into your house may potentially be wearing body armor nowadays because it's becoming
Yeah.
so popular. So it's not a bad idea to have that round at your disposal and be able to defend yourself, assuredly.
Yeah, when
I,
we start.
I'm sorry. I was just
No, go for it.
I was just saying that when I first heard you, I heard you talking to Sherry, who introduced us,
Mhm.
and I listened to that interview. And when you first started talking about it, all I could think about was Lethal Weapon, when Danny Glover throws the Uzi. He's like,
Yes.
cop killers.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. That movie is like partly to blame for the ban. That's what got everybody all freaked out about it in the 80s, and that's
Because
what
they
it
kept
led
calling
to.
them cop killers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what are you gonna do?
So, that's how propaganda works, right?
Think of the children, think of the cops. That's how it goes,
Think of
right?
the cops' children.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah.
Think of the cop's wife.
Well,
We may need these on the street. We got to think of the cop's wife.
yeah,
Somebody has to protect her.
yeah. I mean, that's a little bit edgy, but yes,
At
that's
least
look.
40% of them.
There's validity in that. I mean, look, I tell people, they're like, oh, do you want to kill cops? I'm like, no, I just don't think there's a meaningful difference in cops and other people. We make this round so that, you can be effective against armored assailants, and I don't care what the profession of the armored assailant is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. If somebody's breaking into your house, you need to defend yourself,
Right.
So use at your own discretion, obviously.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I heard you and Pete talking about the amount of time that this project has been going on.
Yeah.
And during that conversation, he brought up whether or not you had been approached by the government and contractors in that nature. So you had kind of started going on that, and then you backed off. You're like, I'm sorry, I could talk about this all day. So let's talk about this all day.
Oh yeah, okay.
Tell us about it. Tell us.
Sure, it'll be just a follow up. So we work with a crowdfunding site, Gun Dynamics, which is specifically for firearms projects. Because we'd get kicked off of like Indiegogo and Kickstarter and those others for doing gun stuff.
Right.
But this site, they've been definitely friends for us, and even though they're really not quite comfortable with the project, they've still hosted us because they believe in us putting our idea out there. So props to them for being kind of open to it, even though it makes them uncomfortable. But there are definitely like the traditional like NRA boomer FUD gun guys, and all of them were like in the army, and now they work with like the more traditional industry that it would of course never give you armor penetrating ammunition because the government doesn't want it and it's kind of risky and all that. And they always want to add value, and they want to they always try to hook up their companies that they work with, hook them up with investors and industry contacts. And they wanted to hook me up too. But like the guy that's like, oh yeah, you'll love this guy. He's really interested in your technology and he wants to get you a government contract. And would you be interested in talking to him? Well, I'll talk to him, but he wants me to make it with tungsten, make it with steel in ways that the government doesn't allow civilians to have. So kind of my answer is like, I'm not going to make a special form of this bullet for the military. Like the whole point of the project was equality under the law, to make sure that civilians had the same thing that the government agents are using. And I'm not going to go in the other way. But that's it, essentially the first real big gateway I had into the firearms industry. It was just like, how are you going to get this to the government? And I mean, that's what the whole industry is built on. Right. They think of the commercial industry and selling to us peons, as just kind of a bonus revenue, because of course, the government has an infinite supply of other people's money to dump into, right, all these companies. So yeah, it's actually hard to use the existing infrastructure of the firearms industry if you specifically aren't trying to work with the government. So.
Yeah. Have any other have any organizations agreed to work with you, like Gun Owners of America or anybody like that? I know they're a little bit, they're not quite as bootlicking as NRA. So
I don't. So not the Gun Owners of America, not the Second Amendment Foundation. But we haven't reached out to them. Not that I would think that they would have issue with our project.
Right.
I will say we have a very strong connection, and I don't want to go into too much detail to betray his confidence if there is any. I just don't know. I'd have to check with him. But we have a very, very strong ally on our team that kind of works for Atlas Arms now, who is a big. He's a big player in the Firearms Policy Coalition. Okay. Which is a smaller organization, but still a really strong gun rights organization. And I should say, since we've released this demo video recently, we have gotten some interest from investors that are typically in the crypto space, typically in the Bitcoin community. And they're saying yeah, we're interested in this kind of thing. And it's just having to come from a separate crowd. We're in the gun industry, but the gun industry doesn't want anything to do with us. So we're kind of having to build this parallel structure to do what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and are there, I mean, I guess you would almost want to take advantage of the technology behind Bitcoin, that peer-to-peer technology, so to speak, so that in order to spread the files around, to avoid a lot of the things that we saw Cody Wilson go through whenever he would release files, and then you get lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Have you been facing any of that? Have you been getting threatened by any governors or states as of yet?
No, not yet. And I think there's a few reasons for that. Number one, the product's not out there yet. So I still think, I mean, and of course, we're in an election right now and other stuff. Gun control actually isn't very popular right now. And that's a really cool thing to see. Of all people, Every Town for Gun Safety, one of the big gun control lobbies, they sent me, I guess they don't know who I am, but they sent me some of their election flyers. And even though they're a gun control organization, they didn't, gun control wasn't even on the list of issues they were talking about. They want you to elect gun control politicians, but they're not even talking about gun control. It's so unpopular right now.
Do you think?
So
What do you think? Do you think like 3D printing and the Ghost Gunner have made it far enough into the mainstream as far as the production of guns that they're kind of realizing that there's not much they can do about it?
I think some of them are. I mean, the politicians themselves, I think, are largely clueless about everything in the world. Uh, but no, like there's a guy recently who wrote a book, and he mentioned the Dagney Dagger project in the book. And this guy is like, he's an academician in the world. He claims to be a homeland security expert, and I think he is. He works as like a consultant with the typical like corporate government security that you would imagine. And he wrote this whole book about gun control as it applies to ghost guns. And he essentially came up with like his conclusion in the book is that with 3D printed guns, with like 80% receivers and stuff like that, gun control efforts needs to stop relying on what he calls supply side regulation and start relying on other methods. So he's saying already, like even the thinkers of the gun control side are thinking about like, man, we've kind of lost the fight controlling the supply of firearms. We got to think up some other way to try it now.
Right. Well, and it with Cody Wilson turned it into a First Amendment issue. It's almost not even a Second Amendment issue now with all the technology that we have available to us. It's just a matter of spreading the information around. One of the things I found weird, and I did this just kind of to get the pulse of what your typical 2A gun shop owner thinks about what's going on. So about a year ago, I went and talked to a guy in a little gun shop about the Ghost Gunner. And I was shocked that he wasn't like, really? You can buy this? I can be making my own 80% receivers and selling them and not have to deal with all these manufacturers? He got really mad. He was really upset. I was like, what are you mad about, dude? This is a new market that's open to you. Nobody else knows about this, apparently. Like, you didn't know about this until I just told you about it. Imagine what you could do with a $2,500 investment, And he was like, well, that's illegal. And I'm like, no, it's not illegal. He's been to court. It's not illegal.
Yeah. That's like the normal NRA FUD, what are
you would just expect them to be like, wow, wait, there's opportunity,
Yeah.
I live in podunk nowhere. I have hardly any business. I can create my own receivers. I can label them myself. I can come up with my own brand.
Cool.
It's like, come on, man. Don't you have any ambition? Can you think outside the box at all? But this is what the state has told me. This is what I know to be true. And this is what has worked for me. Yeah. But how well has it worked for you?
Yeah.
You're not franchising.
So like I tried these days, ever since like a couple months ago, and thinking about this round of publicity around this video and stuff, and like kind of what my message should be. And it kind of came to me. There's another guy in the 3D printed gun community who kind of coined this term, the militia industrial complex. And I started thinking about it, like, yeah, that's what we're doing. And like this guy, there is, because the commercial gun industry, it's really just a spin-off of the traditional military industrial complex. It's the same corporations. They're just trying to make some bonus revenue. And because they do all their business with the government, they don't care about this stuff, like I was saying before. And it's gotten even to like the local gun shops, like this guy you talked to. So, I feel very strongly like the 3D printed gun guys and like us, and there's a couple other companies out there that I think are kind of doing work like this. But yeah, we're kind of doing our own thing now, and we're making something that's completely different. There's going to be gun shops that aren't like that guy, that are completely, all about completely free firearms technology and that kind of thing. And I look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this is an older guy, he's more traditionalist. So I think as the generations kind of move on, you're going to get more of the, technologically savvy, those that understand this, what we're talking about, this type of culture, a little bit more than this guy. but I just kind of wanted to get like a feel for his reaction, and I just thought it was really weird. But you know, but it's really, but it goes with your product as well, with the Dagney Dagger. This is something that you can open source. You can be creating it on your own in your own shop and selling boxes of your own ammo. You know, and you don't have any cutback. You don't have to go and pay back some big corporation. You don't have to pay Remington or Smith and Wesson or whoever, you know, is manufacturing.
That's right.
So why not get involved in it? Why not try to take advantage of the gray market that's available because of the internet and what is the technology that is moving us forward into you know, total recall reality or whatever we're going. People want to say 1984. I'm like Blade Runner, man.
Yeah.
So you said you have what you're trying to do is you're trying to come up with the technology for people, kind of like the Ghost Gunner technology, for people to have their own machining technology and presses and things like that to be able to create these on their own using the technology that you create. So how's that project going?
Yeah, I really look forward to it. So again, you know, for us Atlas Arms, like the Dagney Dagger cartridge itself is still in development. So, you know, we'll be done with that pretty soon. But, you know, that's priority. So all these other things, you know, we've just begun to work with.
Right.
But we know it's possible. And, you know, the Ghost Gunner, we wish it was cheaper, but it is what it is. You know, that kind of thing just costs some money. But since it's becoming kind of like the standard machine to do it yourself with gun technology, we actually want to, you know, I don't know if your listeners, I don't even know if you, like, the Ghost Gunner is a mill. What's called a mill?
You
know what a lathe is?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're going to add, we have an add-on that you can attach to your Ghost Gunner. It might cost, you know, like $200 or something like that. Okay. That will add lathe capability to the Ghost Gunner. So instead of the Ghost Gunner having a tool that spins and that cuts away at your workpiece to make a gun,
right?
Instead, you'll put a rod of material as your workpiece in the spindle. It will spin, and then you'll have a tool center that will cut down that rod. Oh, and nice. So we're excited about that. That's our method to have the Ghost Gunner make the Dagney Dagger. But it's not just that, right? Because if you have that, that opens up the opportunity for you to make any kind of bullet with the Ghost Gunner. Right. You can machine anything, and hopefully, you know, there'll be other people designing different kinds of bullets for different purposes, and then your Ghost Gunner can, you know, whatever, all of these different designs, it can make that. So we're planning on that, and then we think the jacket, that plastic outer part of the bullet, we're pretty sure that can be 3D printed, but we're still working on it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can probably do it. I haven't messed with a lot with the 3D printer, but I've watched some people do it. It's so small. I don't know. It just the hollowing out. But I'm sure, you know, some work.
Well, a 3D printer, you know, like it's additive. So, you know, you're not cutting away. You're just adding material.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. But I mean, like, you can use the Ghost Gunner to do the jackets also. It's just, you know, more complicated to do the jackets than it is the core.
Wouldn't it be heavier to do it that way?
Well, no, it'd still be made out of the same plastic.
Oh, you would still be able to make it out of plastic?
Yeah.
I'd be worried about a CNC mill like tearing it to shreds.
You know, it should be possible. I mean, there's no reason why it wouldn't be. We just, again, we haven't been able to spend the time on it yet.
Yeah. And y'all, and how far are y'all away from market? Did you say, did I catch it right when you said about 2022?
Yeah, I think so. Because, like, normally when people ask, and, like, you know, we're a nonprofit organization, and, you know, I personally, I've put all the money I possibly can into this. I don't have any more to give. So we have to rely on the donations of other people to move forward. And we haven't met our funding goal yet. So we have to move at essentially like the slowest, most conservative pace in order to, you know, do it cheaply. But anymore, we're having really good success with the funding drive after releasing that video. And when we meet our goal for crowdfunding, I think we could do it faster. I think we could start developing maybe at the end of 2021. If we get our funding, and that's a big part of it. I hate to ask people for that,
Right.
but this is the only way, doing it as a nonprofit. That's the only way we could do it, and then just give it away, because investors.
And that's the thing, that as an investor, you're eventually going to get your money's worth, because you're going to get the product, and you're giving away the open source material. Well, what I was curious about, because I know you do have other projects that you were excited about coming up after this is completed.
Yeah.
That I was curious, are you like looking to a situation to where you think that you're going to be able to market and sell enough of the ammunition from on your own that you're going to be able to fund the other stuff?
Yeah, and because this is kind of, I just realized recently that I think people didn't get this, because we can't be a nonprofit and make ammunition. So we're going to have to open up like a traditional company, for profit to manufacture. But the cool thing about that is, as we make money selling this ammunition, we will have like a tax obligation to the IRS or whatever. The cool thing is, though, we'll take our tax obligation and we won't pay taxes. We'll just get tax credit shipping that money back to the nonprofit to develop the other products. So, I mean, it's this great marriage between the two. And, the more successful we are with the ammo, the more of these other projects we can develop. Right.
Well, I think people should be excited about this, because this is definitely a step towards freedom. Like, just a huge step. I mean, as much as the Ghost Gunner was, this is as well. Because, one of the things I've always, Boogie, please stop. One of the things I've always concerned myself with was that when the politicians and when the left figure out that they can't control guns, that they're going to go after the ammunition and the ammunition's manufacturers.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
How is this? How does creating the Dagney Dagger compare to those that load their own brass at home?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. So, if you're going to load your own ammunition, you need the bullet, like the actual projectile. Right. You need the brass case, the powder, the gunpowder itself, and the primer. And, the DIY gun community, and I'm friends with a lot of the DIY gun guys, a lot of the printed gun guys, and we're kind of all working on this together in different ways. Of course, the Dagney Dagger gives you a way, if you're loading at home, then you don't have to be scared of bans on buying cartridges of ammunition, because you can just make your own. But what if they ban, or what if they restrict, bullets, brass, primer, and powder? That's the question. So the Dagney Dagger, of course, is like the first of those. It gives you a way to make a superior projectile at home, and then you can load it yourself. We also have people working with making your own primers. And in fact, we're working on a project to obliviate. It's a project in electrical ignition. So you can just use an electrode that you can make yourself on the Ghost Gunner instead of a normal primer. But even before that happens, we got guys that are working on making primers with match heads and that kind of stuff. We got projects working on making your own brass, and then the gunpowder. That's the really, really hard one. So yeah,
that's the trick. If you can figure out a way to bypass gunpowder, then you're in game, just manufacturing everything on site.
It's true, and it's really, really hard, but people are working on it, and there's more progress on it now than there was even just a couple of years ago. So,
I imagine.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't keep up with the do-it-yourself gun community, other than when I hear someone on Pete's podcast.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm glad they're doing this stuff, man.
Yeah. It's less about the guns and more about the freedom.
Yeah, well, and I'm thinking about it just from a point of view, just to kind of make the whole political spectrum, just useless, just totally useless.
It would be nice.
Yeah, just they can have all the power in the world, but if they can't use it, in any effective way, like whatever, man, I don't care.
Yeah. Someone needs to show them that they can't just write words on paper and control the world.
Right. So I'm all about it when I hear people talking about it. And I've always said, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn this do it yourself, the gun stuff. I haven't gotten around to it. I'm out here on the road driving a truck all week long. I'm like, by the time I get home, I'm like, I don't want to study.
Yeah.
I got 8.5 acres I got to work on. I have a wife, I'm gonna study, So yeah, so I just haven't spent the time that I should spend doing it.
I got to tell you, just from maybe this isn't relevant, but just selfish out of my curiosity. So I kind of like romanticize you truck drivers. You're like the modern day cowboys. Like, how is it for you? Do you like it?
I mean, I'm tired of it. It gets old. I've been doing it I've been a truck driver since I was 23 years old. So 18 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I haven't been on the road the entire time, like over the road the entire time. But, I've been married to my wife for, since 2014. So it's almost, just over 6 years. And, so I don't like being gone all the time. She's from South Africa, so we did the long distance relationship thing for a long time. And so it's kind of like I don't like being away from my wife, and that's like my kids. I have kids as well.
That'd be the worst part for me too.
So that makes it difficult. As far as the job itself, there's a lot of freedom to it. Like you don't really get jacked with a lot, So I like that. I've always enjoyed that. Just the kind of. It's almost like you're a freelancer out doing your own thing. They tell you where to go and when to be there. And then how you figure it out, you do it, is how you figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. Yeah, I can see like the whole, cowboy thing or, like gypsies, rolling around in our vans. But
I think it's cool, man. I've considered like doing that someday when I retire or something. I don't know, but.
Yeah, and there are a lot of companies. Like if you get on with a bigger company, and you're doing it as a retiree, they have what they call part-time, and basically what it is you just tell them where you want to go. So let's say you want to go to North Dakota or South Dakota for a week. Just say, hey, can you get me a load up there? And I'd like to spend a week up there, and then you can get me a load going somewhere else, and I'll spend a week there. And so they'll run you these long haul loads where you may be driving for like 2 weeks to get where or around for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then end up in a spot where you want to be, and you can hang out there for like a week. You're not getting paid for that week you're there, but so I've heard of people doing things like that, or buying their own truck and doing it, running on their own schedule. They get to a place they like and they want to hang out for a couple of weeks, like whatever. What are you going to do? So there are people that do that. I heard of a husband and wife that ended up doing that actually. So it's not unheard of. You 3D print your own truck.
It might take you a while.
Hey, you might want to start today. It might be done by the time you retire.
Yeah.
But you're an engineer?
Yeah, I am. I went to school for it, but honestly, I don't value. Look, I'll say this: like, 85% of my engineering skill came from Wikipedia and practical experience. You know what I mean? So like, I almost like wish that I could open up Atlas Arms as some kind of like apprenticeship. I don't think that school is actually that useful, but I have been a professional engineer. It's actually because I was in aerospace, and unfortunately, kind of the name of the industry these days is aerospace/defense, which I'm not really into that. So
Well,
I knew I'd have to make my own job doing that. And I was lucky enough to hook up with a buddy of mine that I had known since kindergarten. And that's how I started my first company. Um, and I mean, I'm very lucky. I'm lucky to have found an opportunity like that.
he's a little,
So yeah, I worked there. Then I worked in the private space industry, which isn't so private because everything is just a government contract.
yeah.
Um, and then I worked for a company making satellite communications equipment. And then I came here, and then I did Atlas Arms stuff. So I've been around the board, and that's what I like. I don't want to be stuck in a cubicle. That is the worst possible thing. I want to move around, do more, interesting stuff that combines different places, different things, different disciplines, and I've definitely found that. So it's kind of, the knowledge base I've used for Atlas Arms definitely comes from all over the place.
Well, and you gotta, I mean, in order to, I don't know about, I mean, I imagine with aerospace, it's the same. It's very precise, but I know with ammunition, like you got to be really precise with what you're doing. You had said that y'all had run into some complications in that you were just about ready to give up and you tweaked one thing and got it to work. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah. So, I tried to be a little bit reserved with the type of plastic that we're using for the jacket.
Mm-hmm.
But we were using a plastic called Ultim. It also is kind of obscure, but I think people have heard of it more than the alloy we're using. And it's a really strong plastic. In like almost all regards, you would expect it to perform the best. It's fairly expensive. It can take really high heat. It's very chemically resistant, strong. And just no matter what we did, we'd have a batch of 3 that would work perfectly. And then the next batch of 3 that we made almost exactly the same would fail. They just explode in the barrel. And we couldn't make it work reliably. And we figured it's just time to give up. Then in our desperation, we switched to a cheaper plastic, a plastic that's like, I think it's like 20% of the cost of that other one. Very available, very cheap, and it ended up working. And we still don't quite know why. We don't know if it works better with adhesive. We don't know if it's because it's more impact resilient, if it it stretches instead of shatters or something.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe it's a little bit more fungible.
Yeah. It could be. We still don't know quite why it works, but we're really happy that it does, and we're really happy that it's way cheaper.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Because I know, like y'all were talking on Pete's, like it had been a year and was it a year and a half, a year and 8 months, something like that.
A year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, y'all had spoken, and so you had gotten y'all had gotten a lot of the funding, I know, and y'all need a new was it some sort of equipment that you're trying to get right now? Is that what I understood?
So we've had, we basically have, and we have had all the equipment that we need to finish developing the cartridge itself.
Mm-hmm.
But even when you've got a product, it doesn't matter. Like we could say, okay, here's the Dagney Dagger, and it'd be useless because nobody would know how to make it. And right now, because I've got my small CNC lathe right over here, and that's what we use to make projectiles now. But it honestly, like between measuring at those really fine measurements and making this on a small machine like this, it takes us half an hour to make every projectile.
Right.
So that won't fly, because if we sold that, half an hour of my time and the machine time, that's gonna be $10 a round or whatever.
Yeah.
So at least. So
yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of conservative.
Yeah. So what really what we're raising money for now, and I'm happy. I'm so happy that we're doing better. And if that continues, we can get this done much faster. is number one, developing the Ghost Gunner lathe. You know, the capability that will allow people to make it so easily at home. That's a new machine, right? Like it's an add-on that will go into the Ghost Gunner. We got to develop that. And then number two, we need to develop a way for it to be mass manufactured. So people that, you know, are making it in big quantities to sell it to other people, whether it's us or some other company, they're going to have a way to make it. And these projectiles are so different than all the other projectiles on the market. There isn't a way yet for them to, you know, just turn them out. So we got to develop that machine also, that equipment and that process. And that's really what we're raising money for now.
All right. Well, where give us all your plugs and everything. I'm gonna have to get rolling here. And this guy is about to.
Yeah, you're gonna get real strong fighting your dog off there.
Every time I do a podcast in my truck, this is what I'm doing. Yeah.
Hey, it's not bad. It's your brand, man. It's your brand.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll be sitting in my front seat and I'll be on I'll record on my phone through my headset, and you'll hear him. He has this like little orange squeaky bone, and you'll just hear squeak, squeak, squeak back in the background. So yeah, that's his thing. He's always got to be part of the show. So
Yes.
But yeah, give us all your plugs, man. Where can we donate? You know, and all that.
Yeah. So first of all, we got a website, atlasarms.org. If you want to find out more about me and the other contributors, as well as the company, the project, that's the best place to go. We even have like another project posted that you can read about. It's not, you know, real exciting, but it's something that we can do with the equipment we've had in open source because we're a nonprofit company. Through our website, you can find links to donate. You can donate USD, you know, dollars with the credit card, by going to gundynamics.com, and we have a page there, and you can get to that through our website. But then also on our website, we have a page where you can donate Bitcoin, which, you know, most people prefer credit card, but among the Liberty community and people, you know, they're looking for some independence. They often prefer Bitcoin, so we've got that too. You can check us out on Twitter for like, you know, day-to-day developments, you know, videos we post as we do testing, stuff like that. And then the last thing is, you know, feel free to email me. My email is austin@atlasarms.org, or the company, Dagney@atlasarms.org. And, you know, please don't ask me like some of the stupid questions other people ask. Please read the website before you ask me. Information's on the website. But in general, you know, I'm open. I try to be as approachable as possible. So yeah, drop a line.
Cool, man. Well, I really appreciate having you on. I hope we can do this again. Number one, when I have a little bit more time and I can get my truck to stay on so I'm not sweating my balls off. You know, like drenched right now. But yeah, I would love to do this again and get a little bit more information about this and, you know, more projects as you get them going on. You got to stop, dude. All right, man. Well,
yeah. Reach out anytime.
Yeah, I will, man. I got your email and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Great. It's been good. Have a good one.
All right, man. You too. All right. That was Austin Thomas Jones. I am Tommy Salmons. Late.